Imagine this. You're sitting across from someone you care deeply about. The restaurant noise fades to background static. Her eyes won't quite meet yours as she says those words that drop like stones into still water. I think I need a break. In that moment, it feels like the ground beneath you has disappeared. Your mind races with questions. What did I do wrong? Is this really happening? Is it over? If you've ever been in this situation or fear you might be someday, stay with me, because what happens next could determine not just the future of your relationship, but how you grow as a person through one of life's most challenging emotional tests. Today, in this first part of our two-part series, we're diving deep into understanding what relationship breaks really mean, why they happen, and most importantly, how to handle that critical initial conversation. In part 2, we'll explore what to do during the break itself and how to approach reconciliation or moving forward. When someone asks for a break, it's crucial to understand what's really being communicated. A break isn't necessarily a breakup, though it sometimes can be a gentler way of beginning that process. More often, it signals something important. Taking a break is a way to create physical and emotional space so that both partners can gain perspective, identify their feelings, and decide what they want, says renowned psychologist Robert Sternberg, whose triangular theory of love has shaped our understanding of romantic relationships for decades. Let's clarify what a break typically is and isn't. What a relationship break usually is: a temporary pause to gain clarity, an opportunity to reflect on individual needs and the relationship, a chance to miss each other and evaluate feelings, time to work on personal issues affecting the relationship. What a relationship break usually isn't: permission to date or sleep with other people, unless explicitly agreed upon, a way to soften the blow of an inevitable breakup, an attempt to manipulate or punish the other person, a solution to fundamental compatibility issues. The reality is that when someone asks for space, their request exists somewhere on a spectrum. On one end, it's a genuine desire to work through personal issues to return to a stronger relationship. On the other, it might be the beginning of a separation process where they're trying to ease both of you into the reality of a breakup. Your job in this moment isn't to panic. It's to understand where on this spectrum your situation likely falls. Why do women ask for breaks? The psychology behind the request. Before you can respond effectively, you need to understand the possible motivations behind her request. While every situation is unique, research and relationship experts point to several common reasons. 1. Emotional overwhelm. Modern life places enormous demands on our mental and emotional bandwidth. Work stress, family obligations, health concerns, and other pressures can make it difficult to show up fully in a relationship. Sometimes a break is simply about creating space to process these emotions without the additional responsibility of maintaining relationship dynamics. 2. Identity and autonomy concerns. Dr. Esther Perel, a leading relationship therapist, often speaks about the tension between our need for security and our desire for freedom. Sometimes women request breaks because they feel they've lost touch with their individual identity within the relationship. This doesn't mean they don't value the partnership. Often it means they want to strengthen their sense of self to bring a more authentic version of themselves back to the relationship. 3. Unresolved conflict patterns. When couples find themselves trapped in the same arguments with no resolution, stepping back can be a way to break destructive patterns. According to relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman, couples often get stuck in negative sentiment override, where even neutral comments are interpreted negatively. A break can help reset these patterns. 4. Personal growth and life transitions. Major life transitions, graduating, changing careers, moving cities, health challenges can prompt a reassessment of relationships. Sometimes a break is requested not because of relationship problems, but because one partner needs to focus entirely on navigating these changes. 5. Attachment insecurity being triggered. Dr. Sternberg notes that relationship difficulties often reflect deeper attachment patterns formed in childhood. If a woman has an anxious or avoidant attachment style, Certain relationship dynamics might trigger insecurities that feel overwhelming, prompting a need for space to regulate emotions. 6. Evaluating long-term compatibility. Sometimes breaks happen when someone is questioning whether the relationship aligns with their long-term values, goals, and needs. This reflection period allows them to assess the relationship objectively without the influence of day-to-day emotional connections. 7. The slow fade. We must acknowledge that sometimes, not always, but sometimes asking for a break is a way to begin ending a relationship gradually. Some people find it easier to create distance before making a final decision, either because they're conflict avoidant or because they're not yet certain they want to end things completely. Understanding which of these factors might be at play in your situation requires honest communication and often reading between the lines of what's being said. And this brings us to the most crucial moment, your initial response when she asks for the break. The way you handle the initial conversation can set the tone for everything that follows. Here's a step-by-step approach to this challenging moment. 1. Take a deep breath and manage your initial reaction. Your first internal response might be panic, anger, or an urgent need to fix things immediately. Resist acting on these impulses. Take a deep breath. Remember that this moment doesn't define the entire future. It's just one conversation in what will be an ongoing process. 2. Listen actively without interrupting. Allow her to fully express her thoughts without jumping in to defend yourself or the relationship. Ask clarifying questions like, "Can you help me understand what's led to this?" Or, "What does a break look like to you?" Listen for clues about which of the motivations we discussed might be driving her request. 3. Acknowledge her feelings without judgment. Validate that her feelings are real and important, even if you don't fully understand or agree with them. Saying something like, "I can see this has been weighing on you, and I appreciate you being honest with me," creates a safe space for honest communication. 4. Ask for specific parameters, not justifications. Rather than demanding explanations that might put her on the defensive, focus on understanding the practical details. How long does she envision this break lasting? What contact, if any, would she like during this time? Are there specific issues she hopes to address during this period? 5. Request time to process, if you need it. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's perfectly reasonable to say, "This is a lot to take in, and I want to respond thoughtfully. Can we continue this conversation tomorrow after I've had some time to process?" This shows maturity and prevents you from making promises or statements you might later regret. 6. Avoid these common reaction mistakes. Don't beg or plead. This creates uncomfortable pressure and rarely changes someone's mind. Don't make ultimatums. "If you take a break, we're done forever." Only forces polarization. Don't promise immediate transformation. Claiming you'll change everything overnight isn't credible. Don't recruit others to intervene. Involving friends or family to talk her out of it violates trust. Don't jump to worst-case assumptions. A break is not automatically a breakup. The goal of this initial conversation isn't necessarily to prevent the break from happening. It's to ensure you both have clarity about what's happening and why. This understanding becomes the foundation for what comes next. Once you've had that initial conversation, it's important to establish clear parameters for the break period. Without these boundaries, misunderstandings and hurt feelings become almost inevitable. Essential boundaries to discuss. 1. Duration. Is this a defined period? 2 weeks, a month, or open-ended with a check-in date? Having some time frame, even if tentative, prevents the anxiety of complete uncertainty. 2. Communication rules. Will you have no contact, limited contact for practical matters only, or regular check-ins? Will certain platforms, texting versus calling, be preferred? Being explicit prevents the pain of mismatched expectations. 3. Dating intimacy guidelines. This is perhaps the most crucial boundary to clarify. Are you still exclusively committed to each other, or is seeing other people permitted? Assuming rather than clarifying this point can lead to devastating misunderstandings. 4. Privacy agreement. Will you share details of the break with friends and family? How much information is appropriate to share with mutual connections? A privacy agreement protects both parties' dignity. 5. Shared responsibilities. How will you handle practical matters like shared living spaces, finances, possessions, or pet care during this time? These logistics shouldn't be overlooked. 6. Growth objectives. What personal work does each of you commit to during this time? Whether it's therapy, reflection, reading, or other growth activities, having intentions makes the break purposeful. Dr. Sternberg emphasizes that healthy boundaries aren't walls to keep people out, but rather clear agreements that allow both people to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. The clearer these boundaries are, the more productive the break period can be. A relationship break, while painful, offers a rare opportunity for personal development and clarity. Here's how to use this time effectively. 1. Reconnect with your individual identity. Relationships sometimes lead us to neglect parts of ourselves as we accommodate another person. Use this time to revisit hobbies or interests you've neglected. Reconnect with friends you haven't seen enough. Rediscover your personal rhythms and preferences. Identify any unhealthy dependencies that have developed. 2. Assess the relationship honestly. With some emotional distance, you can evaluate the relationship more objectively. What needs of yours were being met and which weren't? What patterns or dynamics felt healthy versus unhealthy? What compromises felt appropriate versus those that felt like self-abandonment? If the relationship were to continue, what would need to change? 3. Develop emotional regulation skills. Many relationship difficulties stem from poor emotional regulation. Use this time to practice mindfulness meditation, to increase self-awareness, learn to identify your emotional triggers, develop healthier coping mechanisms for difficult feelings. Consider working with a therapist on emotional regulation. 4. Build your support network. Don't isolate yourself during this vulnerable time. Confide in trusted friends who can offer balanced perspective. Consider joining support groups where others understand similar experiences. Maintain connections that remind you of your value outside the relationship. These insights and strategies should help you navigate the initial shock and early days of a relationship break with dignity and wisdom. In part 2, we'll explore how to avoid common pitfalls during the break, how to approach reconnection effectively, and what to do regardless of whether reconciliation happens or not. Remember, how you handle yourself during this challenging time says more about your character than almost any other relationship circumstance. Stay tuned for the second part of this series where we'll continue this important conversation. See you in the next video.